Why don't we begin by you introducing yourself, young man, and then we'll talk about this cool place that we're sitting at this time.
Absolutely. So my name is David Isaac. I'm the president of DCAC, Data Center Anti-Conference. A little bit about me. I've been in the industry now about 10 years. Started working for you back in 2015 and kind of been along for the ride at DCAC.
It's been amazing, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's changed so much and it continues to change every year.
Well, listen, I'm happy. I'm looking forward to unpackaging this one because we've never done a podcast about DCAC before, but this is part DCAC, but it's part you, right? So for anybody that's listening for the first time, we're also calling you from our, reaching out to you or connecting to you through our very brand new podcast studio, which is almost done being built entirely. Isn't that right, Will/Jamie, behind the red curtain? So we have some more art and stuff that's going to go on these walls. So for those that are listening to the podcast, we host the Data Center Revolution, and we put on the industry pioneers and luminaries and really talk about things we have to unpackage. Most complicated things to understand around in energy, labor, human performance, the trends of the industry because of the demand of AI. We want to use this platform to unpackage that stuff. And again, you're hosting a conference that you're the president of, and 1/3 of it is based on AI technology, 1/3 is based on energy, and 1/3 is based on human performance, right? And it's a one-of-a-kind conference. This podcast in particular is to introduce people. We have this new studio, and you're going to see another podcast platform emerge. Mike Sorelli, current host of the Everyday Warrior podcast on Men's Journal, Sports Illustrated, and then the Data Center Revolution podcast are going to be coming together to create a third podcast that'll stand alone called 9 Nines. I say that so that people understand where we're going, right? Where we're heading, because this first part of the podcast is really to start at the beginning, right? So a lot of people have this bad idea, this misunderstanding that DCAC is something that I run. And the answer is, of course I do. I run every aspect of this conference. I clearly don't. I show up to the conference most times, just like everybody else for the first time. I'm seeing it for the first time. I try to stay as far away from the conference as I can so that you have full autonomy and authority to do what you do. And some people are going to be like, that sounds crazy. So before we go, I want people to know who you are, because people think that I've created this thing for them, and I haven't. I've helped you create this amazing thing for them, and I want them to know where that started from, okay? So that's why I asked you to be on this one. You cool?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I can't take full credit for that. I think we've had an amazing team along the years. I think it has a lot to do with the leadership that started this conference. But
well, yeah. So listen, we've had so many amazing people in orbit of that conference, and I think that conference has changed a lot of lives. In fact, like there's people that reach out to me all the time because they met their best customers at that conference. They met their next job at that conference. They made their best friends at that conference. So, but that conference is a lot of things to a lot of different people. We're going to talk about that because this podcast is only focused on DCAC and you. So where were you born?
I was, think about that. It's always harder when I say the Valley. The first thing that comes to mind when I
start rolling your R's.
When someone asks me that question, it's always a Valley, but not, kind of
a little full Mexican on me.
Yeah. I'm just going to translate right now to start saying all Spanish. So it's South Texas, a little town called Edinburgh, Texas.
About 20 miles from the Mexican border.
Yeah, about 18 and a half, but yeah.
So you grew up there. Were you a particularly good student?
Yeah, I mean, I had
I'm going to go with no.
Probably. Yeah, no, I definitely, I would say good student, yes. Good human being, probably no. Growing up in a neighborhood, or where I grew up, it was a rough part of town, but you hang out with the wrong crowd, you tend to get in trouble a little bit more than often, so.
Yeah.
In the classroom, yeah, I had a second life. I knew that I wanted to get out of the Valley one day, or South Texas, I should say, Edinburgh. And I kept my head down in class and try to do as good as I could do.
It's a tough area of the Valley. I know that there's a lot of amazing people that work in the space. You helped, I know you were part of a lot of things that are part of your heritage, and that's your community that you also do a lot to support. I have this industry, which I'm fully committed to with my soul, as I know you are, but there's other communities that we try to do stuff. You're specifically in the Latino community, mine on the veteran community, but we share. I support yours, you support mine, and I think it's the beauty of this stuff. But for people that are listening, I met you 10 years ago. You were 21 years old, and you were a junior at St. Ed's and we had a mutual connection. And I asked that kid who went to college with you to bring 5 or 6 of his friends to DCAC in the first year. So I think you were year 1.
Yeah.
And in year 1, you showed up as a day laborer that I sat you all down at a table and I said, you guys could eat and drink anything you want and as much of it as you want. Just hand out t-shirts and make sure that everyone's happy. And was that about right?
Yeah. Apart from the fact you're like, hey man, I'll give you a little bit of money at the end of the day.
I'll give you a couple $100.
A couple $100, but you can drink anything you want. You had me at, you can drink anything you want.
Every college kid's dream as a junior in college. So he was 21, by the way, I'm just saying.
Yeah. ACL requires us to all be 21 at a minimum.
So what happened is you grew up in the Valley. You were a mathlete. You were also an athlete, though.
Yeah.
I mean, I've done a 50K with you. I mean, I know what you're capable of doing. But you were driven to get out of the Valley, and you end up getting a migrant scholarship at the St. Edward's University, right?
Yep.
Where you studied what again?
I studied business administration and physical therapy.
That is the weirdest combination of 2 degrees.
Man, I actually started studying for the MCAT to go to med school and realized it's probably just more I was following the money than I was following my passion, and realized business is my passion.
Is it really? All right, well, listen, let's double tap on that, because for those that are listening, I'm talking to David Isaac, who's the president of DCAC, and we're celebrating our 10th annual DCAC. And you went from coming to DCAC number 1, the very first one we ever had, before we even had Gary Busey on stage, and you were just a day laborer, right? And you were this infectious kid you were the only one out of these college kids that was asking questions about the conference. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
What was the conference to you in your first year? I mean, you showed up, you were just going to make a couple $100 and drink all you could. And now you're being exposed to this brand new industry. Had you heard of data centers before this?
No.
They don't have data centers in the Valley?
So I think they have one. And it's been the same one for the past 20 years.
Had you known about this industry or that data center before this?
Not at all.
So when you showed up to a data center conference, what were you thinking?
I understood it'd be in tech. I'm like, okay, they're in tech. Seems like fun. I'm around professionals. What I thought was they were there to learn, connect. I'm like, okay, great. If I can learn something, to me was the only thing I saw in that conference was, one, I can learn something new, and I can probably make a couple good connections.
So you're focused like all college kids. If you're a junior, you should be trying to build your network, right?
Yeah.
I don't even know if you had a LinkedIn then.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember you had a question about everything. You followed around people. You're like, hey, how can I help? All the other college kids were already blended in, and they were just getting loudmouth soup in their face. But you were trying to figure out how you could help. Hey, need any more help with this? Need any help with that? And then I remember you calling probably a month or 2 after DCAC, and you were trying to, you're always had an iron in the fire as an entrepreneur in some case or some capacity. And you're like, I want to learn more. I want to be a part of the team. And I was like, cool, I'll pay you what?
I don't know, like $15 an hour or something like that back in the day, but I knew it was more than what I was making. And I think that was the exciting part. It was just like, hey, look, what you guys had there was infectious. It was the people, but it was also the opportunity to continue to grow, right? And that was something I'm like, look, to me, it was just one step forward. If there's any way I could be involved, I remember I just asking that. If anything opens up next year, I don't care what it is, just let me in.
Yeah. And in that time, we spent time with you, right? Yeah. I mean, what do you think you learned about the data centers themselves from the first conference? Because I don't know myself how productive it was, but were you understanding what a data center did by then?
No, I think that the first year, I think the first year was more around just the connections. I don't think when I stepped in, I didn't know what people were talking about. I didn't understand what they were talking about. I was too infatuated with everything that's happening around, right? And then, to top that off, tying back to what you were talking about, I remember clearly that I was just more concerned around making sure that I'm bringing value and helping you out, or helping all the people around there, that I don't think I had to drink till the last hour of the conference. As soon as I had that first one, that's when it kind of opened the door.
Well, let me tell you, I'm going to fast forward, right? People don't realize that you grew up, picking watermelons in the Valley to getting a migrant scholarship to a really good private school and getting 2 degrees because you're an overachiever. And then you fell into the data center industry, and that's not an uncommon story to hear. I think a lot of the people that are listening to this podcast are going to probably have their own story about how they just were at the right place at the right time. Did you at that time discover that when did you discover that the data center industry could be a place for you to park your talent?
I think the second year when I saw the growth, or actually, you know what? I saw us growing. I think we were working at Nova Mission Critical at that time.
Because I hired you at Nova.
Yep.
And then when you graduated college, I think I hired you direct as a full-time employee.
Exactly. And that at that point, Nova was on, we were in the upwards trajectory and growing. I saw it as an opportunity again. I just thinking it was a tech. I'm like, look, tech's not going anywhere. As long as tech's not going anywhere, I think this company's not going to go anywhere. Right. That's when, again, I still didn't know the possible growth in data centers. I didn't even know what data center was. I just knew I was tying it back to tech.
And
I think it was
all that had job security.
Yeah. And then over the years, I think that was a part over the years. I think it was year 4 or 5 when we started having, I think Luke Nosek, when he came on stage and talked about the type of technology, that was 4 or 5 years out. That's when I realized, whoa, technology will never stop being built. As long as there's people out there that are going to, as long as technology continues to evolve, data centers will always be a part of it. And I heard this phrase that the data center industry was almost recession-proof because of technology and the demand of technology. And that's when I really was like, hey, I'm staying in this industry. I don't care what people say. I'm putting my 2 feet in.
We learned then that this industry grows faster than every other industry because of the growth of every other industry. Every other industry's capability and limitations of growth is predicated on technology. And the more that they adopt emerging technology, the more demand for data centers there are. So the more an airline creates a technology vehicle or an application that allows them to have something on the front end or the back end of their business that brings more value or generates more revenue, that's going to have an impact on data centers. It doesn't matter what industry it is. We could tie every industry's demand back to the demand of ours, which is unlike every other industry. Some industries do depend on others, like energy is heavily dependent on by every other industry, but no industry depends on energy more for growth than ours right now. Our industry's growth for energy will transform. It'll actually shift our energy demand from fossil fuels to a greater dependency on renewables, cleaner, safer, more scalable, more sustainable forms of energy like nuclear, right? So we will shift our economy from an energy perspective driven by this aggregation of every other demand of industry into ours, right? And in that early stage, we were putting, people don't know who Luke Nosek is. He was one of the founders of PayPal. He's a billionaire on the board of SpaceX and Tesla. We just used that stage to put new voices. We created. Did I explain to you why we created DCAC early on?
Yeah.
What was your understanding of why we had DCAC?
Well, it was more so rather than the way I interpreted it was, rather than traveling across the world to be able to go and visit clients and be able to, it was rather bringing them under one house, under one roof, and then to be able to give a platform for all the partners in the industry that didn't have a voice, able to talk about what they're doing.
There was a dominance. Even today, there was 3 or 4 Goliaths. You have the pioneers, I think, that really started the conference game in this space. Got to be George Rocket.
Oh yeah.
DCD, right? And that was I built my network off going to DCD conferences, right? And I didn't get to learn much about technology because it's more about the vendors talking about their technology versus the users of the technology themselves. But there were occasions where you'd have the users talking about the demand that they'd have. But I found that DCD and AFCOM, Data Center World, and 7x24 were like the big Goliaths. Data Cloud hadn't made it to the US yet. It's ironic that, they started moving close to your conference, and then every year they'd get a little bit closer to your conference until this year. Now David's going head to head against Goliath, right? They're hosting their conference on the same day you're hosting yours.
Just blocks away.
And it's going to be a good rivalry. I think that, everyone knows how the David versus Goliath story goes, and this one looks like it's going to unfold the same way, right? But those were the 3 major conferences. And I said, hey man, our industry doesn't need another conference. It needs a better one.
Yeah.
And it needs to have a platform, because right now those 3 conferences, if you look at them, they basically have the same speakers on the same stages at all the times at all the same markets talking about the same stuff. It's more like an award show masqueraded as a conference, right? And that's how they get a lot of the big luminaries there. They draw them in and offer them awards, and then those people come, and because those people come, the vendors come, because the vendors come, the tickets get sold, right? And everyone builds a big networking event out of it. And look, I've been to every conference in the space around the world, I feel. Not literally, but I feel like I've been to almost all of them, right?
Yeah.
And And some of them are great, but we really go to those conferences to hear from another voice that we don't get to hear from, or give a platform to someone that otherwise doesn't have the capital to afford those bigger conferences, and they could get their product onto the market exposure through something like us. So you took over the reins of DCAC entirely 5 years ago. Is that about right?
Yeah.
And before you took that over, you were involved with it for the first 5 years, but you even left us at Overwatch. You were one of the first 10 people probably that we hired. And then you left for about a year, and then you came back, right? And when you left, you're an entrepreneur at heart. You wanted to go build something. You're a developer. You're buying and building Airbnbs and stuff, right?
Yes, sir.
Then you want to be back in the space?
Yeah, no, I think not just back in the space. I mean, the space is one thing, but I think what I was realizing that I was missing was purpose. I think as an entrepreneur, the innate feeling in me was building something bigger than myself. I think that at the time when I left, I realized I was just chasing the dollar. Didn't have a team behind me, didn't have a purpose behind me. And I kind of missed that, right? And then as we started talking, we discussed and come back on board, that's what not only Overwatch offered, that's what DCAC offered. I think that's what in life, I think that, when people ask me what's my passion, it's being able to help make a difference in this world. And I think that's, what I tie everything back to DCAC is.
I remember that there was a phrase that you used in those conversations in the early days about 5 years ago. And you hear me say it, but it was really yours. And you said, hey, this is the people's conference. We want to make a conference for the people, is what you said. And I said, yeah, let's make the people's conference, right? Which is, they don't have to go listen to the same speakers they listen to at every other conference. It gets to be in a cool market where there's a lot of energy, a good vibe. But over the course of time, I think that your own personal growth and the growth that we were trying to do, experience as a team, led you to really start pushing more of the human performance side into the conference, which is when we introduced like Dakota, right? Medal of Honor recipient. And we've had Mike for the last year or two.
Yeah, he was there last year. He'll be there again as a keynote this year.
So, what's your vision? What's your purpose? What are you trying to do with DCAC? Because when people think of that conference, I think they know that it's different. You put a lot of effort into trying to make that different. You're a millennial stacked with a team of Gen Xers, and you guys are in charge of the most disruptive conference in this industry right now. And you're the future of this industry. I mean, Gen X's like me that have been in this game for 20 plus years, not saying that we're going anywhere anytime soon, but you are the future, the millennials and the Gen Zers. So what are you trying to do with this platform that you have to really attract that? Because look, you helped us start Data Center Revolution, right? I mean, you've been pioneering shit. You've been using your business degree and your entrepreneur degrees to push us through these things. But what's been driving you? What are some of the things that you're trying to accomplish, and what are some of your goals with DCAC?
Yeah, I think to answer that, it's a different approach, right? I think the main thing at heart, I try to stick to a core focus, right? Which is making a difference. I want people to walk through that door and know that we took the time we purposely did everything. Everything's intentional about DCAC. And it's all about, making sure that not only they have a good experience, but that they can make a connection, a genuine connection, where it allows them an opportunity for either the next role in life or to be able to keep growing their business. It's being able to make a difference in multiple ways, from a connection standpoint to whether they're helping somebody else out, right, for the veteran community. We want people to walk in and feel at home. I would say, in basic terms, DCAC is not just a conference for a certain type of person with a certain type of title. It's meant for everybody. You have veterans who have never even heard of a data center coming into the industry, so you have to be able to tailor an experience for them that ties in with everybody else. You have people who have been in the industry less than 5 years. You have people that have been in the industry more than 20 years. It's creating an environment that all those type of experiences can blend together and exchange ideas in a very comfortable environment. We want people to be walking around and meet the Chris Crosbys of the world in a very comfortable environment. There was times where, even myself walking around, I won't know every person that walks through the door, but you can absolutely go up to anybody, go shake their hand, and they're going to take the time to talk to you. You can ask them any question at DCAC, and they're going to answer in a very genuine way, where you're not going to always be able to get that. And I think, to me, that lends itself to be able to change someone's life, not just from a the connection that they might be able to go and build and maybe go work for somebody like that one day, but to be able to believe in themselves that they are worth, coming to this industry, they are worth more than, whatever it is that they're doing. It's just more as an inspirational opportunity. But what we hope to get out of it, I would say, is just to be able to make people feel like they're part of something bigger.
That's awesome. Have you had any feedback from people that have attended in the past that have told you, like I had mentioned, I've lost count of the number of people that have sent me notes and said, dude, thank you for reminding me to come to that conference. I met this person and we're going to do a ton of work with them. And we always felt that creating an environment like what you're doing, which would lend itself to a greater exchange of ideas between people that have a product or a solution and those that have a need for it. And if we could put them in an environment that allowed for that exchange, maybe some live music, some comedy, maybe an inspirational, motivational speaker like Mike, or maybe just some loudmouth soup, you get some stuff going in front of people. Yep. And they start investing into each other and they start building what I consider real relationships. I said it on stage at DCAC in Europe, at Dublin, a few months ago. We don't really build networks anymore. We don't need conferences to build networks. We have LinkedIn for that. What we need to do now is we need to start building relationships. And some of these conferences don't offer an environment for those relationships to be built. They offer me an excuse to go to Vegas or to go to DC or San Francisco or Chicago or Dallas or Phoenix or wherever, Orlando. And those are great conferences to go build those networks. But I think that what you create is an environment for a greater exchange of energy that allows real relationships to be built. Because a lot of us, we're going to be friends with each other and they're going to have 3 or 4 jerseys on there. How many, if you were to look at all the years of all the people that have registered to attend DCAC, how many times, what percentage of attendees do you think we have that register this year, but last year they registered and they're at a different company, or the year before that a different one, or so on and so forth? I mean,
yeah, it's a good amount.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
We have those names and numbers, right? The statistics we have and the growth we have. I mean, what's DCAC shaping up to this year? Well, first of all, answer the question. What kind of feedback are you getting from people getting new careers? Because that's a new life.
Yeah, no, that's actually something that gave me kind of like, I like to be able to find things that I hold on to be able to help continue to drive and know that we're on the right path. About 2 years ago or last year, 2 years ago, we started the initiative to be able to get more transitioning veterans to DCAC. And that first year, we had about 5 veterans that we met at Operation Hit that we hosted out in San Diego. They attended on their own dime. We paid for the tickets, helped them with lodging. They flew themselves in to the conference, came together, and they were in uniform. All of those veterans walked away with jobs that year.
Yeah.
And that was great. And I knew we were onto something. The second year, those 5 told another 5 about the conference. I think there was 10 transition veterans, and 9 out of those 10 walked away with job opportunities. And when they came back to us and they pulled me aside and they thanked us, and it wasn't just me, it was you, it was Chris Cosby, it was so many different speakers that grabbed them as well once we introduced them.
Dean Nelson personally.
Dean Nelson.
Emails to every senior executive of FAMGA saying, please consider these people for your team.
Absolutely. And we had a couple.
There's some amazing people in this industry that really look out, right, for others.
100%. And that's what it was, the feedback from them that I think sparked that just reminded me of why I love this conference and why I love being around this industry, was when they came back and thanked me for changing their life. I'm like, it's not me. It's this industry. We're just allowing you the opportunity. We're allowing you the environment.
This industry, to put it into perspective, again, we're talking to David Isaac, the president of DCAC, but you started in year 1 without any knowledge of what a data center was.
Yeah.
You've worked in the field. You've been a project manager for us. In addition, DCAC was a collateral thing. We don't do it to make money. We were doing it just to have a difference in the industry. So when you weren't doing DCAC as a collateral duty, you were building data centers right alongside of us in the foxholes, helping stand up procurement teams. Like, you've been a part of a lot of the delivery side of data centers. So you went from a person that came to DCAC who just showed up as a day laborer to the president of the entire conference. And in that 10 years, you've made a lot of changes to people's lives. I can guarantee you there's people that are going to listen to this podcast that are going to be able to tie something that they've done in their career back to the event that you host for them, right? Every year, people will say things like, thank you, Kirk, for this conference. I'm like, bro, I was a founder of this. My job is to go find leaders that are going to be the future of this. Just like what I'm doing here with Jesse. on what we're doing with you with the Overwatch side, right? So like, we're here to build the future leaders, and those leaders will build the teams. Those teams will build the data centers. But you started off your entire career through DCAC, and you didn't just learn how to run a conference. You learned how to build data centers every step along the way.
Absolutely. And I think the other thing too is that I can't take full credit for it, right? We've had a lot of great people that have been part of DCAC over the years. And I think the one thing that, someone was asking me too, what's the secret sauce to building DCAC? I go, the only secret sauce I have is a team. So the only thing I can tell you is that the team they are passionate, they care, they give a shit, right? For lack of better terms, that's what I would bet them against any other team in the world, right? And that's
because they're doing it for the people.
They're doing it for the people, right? We all have the same purpose and same mission in mind to make a difference and for the people. And I think that seeing that vision and seeing it align with the team is what allows them to make the same decisions I would make, right? It's because we're always trying to make a difference.
Sure. So you use DCAC. I mean, how many people have you introduced to this industry that didn't know what a data center was through DCAC?
Never thought about that.
Yeah, for sure, right? So, I mean, showed up, it changed your life. And at the time, there's 5, 6 different types of conferences going on, but there are 3 Goliaths. Now there's 4. But you're going toe-to-toe with these big shops now. What's that like? And what do you have to do to keep your edge?
And we're always looking to evolve. I think the big thing is never being comfortable, right? I think no one year at DCAC is ever like the next. I think just staying the course, always just trying to, be the leader of change.
Have you noticed others copying your conference?
Yeah, definitely. I think people have seen some of the things that allow for a more relaxed environment. But that's the nature of the beast, I would say. But we're always, no matter what, we're always going to evolve. This year we're going to have a lot of new experiences that people are not going to be expecting. I think that's the fun part, is that no one knows what to expect when they walk through that door.
I know there was a time where you came to me a few years ago and you're like, hey, we sold this whole thing out in sponsors. I think we need to start announcing some of the speakers now. And I take a lot of pride in what you built, right? Because if you look at these other conferences, they literally will put a gun to these other speakers' heads and be like, you want to sign up right now to speak next year? And they're just recycling the same people through. And I'll tell you, I've sat down with the executives of some of those big conferences before. They believe that they're the ones that crown kings. They're the ones that believe that they make the leader. They are who pick who the celebrities of this industry are. Those conferences do that. I'm like, I don't know shit about that. We've never handed out an award at DCAC. Maybe we've raised money through DCAC, and we've brought recipients of that on stage, which would be an award, I guess, as we're donating money to them. But this conference wasn't done to make money. It was made to make a difference to the industry, and it is made for the people. And I know you like to keep a lot of the experience of what's to come, a little bit of a secret, but some of the things that we've done in the past include what? And what are you willing to share with the listeners today that are going to be, maybe there's some people that are on the fence, like, do I go this year or not? I mean, every year you grow. Every year it's bigger. I think, what did we have last year? 1,400 and plus?
Yeah, about 1,400 people.
And what are you expecting this year? More?
Sure. Yeah, this year I think we talked about capping it off at 1,500. Now, not because we can't hold more than 1,500, not because we're not going to have the interest of 1,500, but because we want to be able to maintain that experience of DCAC, right? But as we talk out loud, right, the big thing was always focused around making an impact. So it's, maybe we grow to 2,000 people. The big thing is, as long as we stay on the course of making an impact on people's lives, I think we'll continue to create that experience.
So what would be the advice you'd have for anybody that's listening, that's on the fence and wants to go to DCAC?
I'd tell them, come check it out, right? If it's not for you, you'll realize really quickly, and you probably won't come next year. But my money is going to bet that they're going to want to come back year after year because of the environment that it creates, because of the relationships that you're going to, of the people you're going to meet. That's not one of our selling points. We have over 90 different operators that have already signed up for the conference. Every year, numbers grow by every operator of the amount of people that they're sending to the conference. But that's not a selling point to sponsors. That's not a selling point to attendees, because it's not about that. We want the right people in the room that want to be a part of what we're doing.
Yeah.
That's always my advice, is to come check it out for yourself.
Who are some of the speakers you got DCAC this year that you're comfortable talking about?
Yeah, we got Wade Vincent. We got
NVIDIA.
NVIDIA.
He did a keynote last year, and it was incredibly well received. And if you guys don't know who Wade is, Wade is the luminary for NVIDIA. He's the face and the advocate for this industry on behalf of NVIDIA. So he's probably one of the most important people at NVIDIA for what we do. And having his participation is huge. So he spoke for us last year. I saw that he spoke at AFCOM as well. And I'm sure he speaks everywhere right now because NVIDIA is the number one player in the world for data centers right now, it seems, right? So it's great to have someone who's spent so much time as Wade has he's the podfather from HP, if you remember, right? So having his talent as our advocate to NVIDIA, what we're doing as an industry is a huge factor for us.
Yeah.
But who else?
Well, we'll say something that does make it a little bit special about the speakers is that regardless if they speak at another conference, they always save the special announcements for DCAC. So all the speakers that we talked with, they do have a couple big announcements that they wouldn't have released anywhere else except for at DCAC.
Well, speaking of that, I mean, there are companies that launched themselves at DCAC last year.
Absolutely. We had one group that announced they were going to build the first hydrogen-powered data center out of Houston, Texas, which is pretty awesome. Last year, we have a couple groups that have already reached out. I think it's becoming the platform for people to be able to kick off their company.
Well, didn't you have a company launch their business at DCAC Europe in Dublin this year as well?
We did.
Yep.
We did. We have a couple big ones too, and a couple ones that are making a splash. Like you had Dan from Greenscale Energy not too long ago, and he said it was one of the best things he's ever done. Right? He's in next year, and he was following it.
He did a speech. They were the title, I think.
They were the title. Yep.
And so like we wanted to make that platform to where the barrier to entry to marketing in this industry is cost.
Yeah.
It just costs a lot of money. Some of these other conferences are going to make you commit to 2-3 years or multiple conferences perhaps. We don't need to lock anybody in because we want to emerge people. We want to give a platform for people to launch. We want this to be for anybody that wants to introduce their product to the market because it's for the people, right?
Absolutely. I think that's a pretty it's a compliment to the conference itself, right? That people want to make their announcement at the conference, which is pretty awesome. We definitely want them to. That's what we created this platform for.
Yeah,
to give them a voice.
So other speakers we have, I know we have Oracle speaking.
We do.
We have. I mean, if you look at we have Chris Crosby giving a speech. I mean,
OpenAI. We have
OpenAI. Well, the Open Compute Forum will be talking at the forum, but there's not. We'll have members of Stargate. We'll have all the major players that are going to be on that stage. And typically every year we've had
Cyrus Swan. We have Cyrus Swan. We have Stack.
ClearArc. You have Lindsay. I mean, look, you have some people that are coming back because they're industry favorites. We even have Dan Crosby coming to give a state of the power industry, so to speak, and how impacted the energy market is because of the demand of the adoption rate of emerging technology.
I think one of the things to talk about that's important for people to understand is the conversations around DCAC. I think a lot of people think that it's a pay-to-play type of platform, which, we've time and time again, we've explained to people it's not. We've been offered hey, can I be the title sponsor if I could talk on 2 panels? No, that's not what DCAC was created for. I think that's one of the big things that I think it's always important for listeners to understand. That part of it is that we find the people that have a passion and have something to talk about that the industry needs to hear. It's going to help change the industry. That's one thing I always tell speakers every time I talk with them. Is the one thing is we look for passion first and foremost. They can't convince a couple people on a call. How are they going to convince 1,200 plus people looking at them on the one stage of DCAC? Secondly would be, how are they going to inspire the audience? Inspire them to take change, right? To inspire them to the point where when that speaker gets off the stage, that those companies that are listening are like, man, I got to go talk to Kirk Offel. I need to go get either on what he's doing, or I need to go bring him into what I'm doing to be able to help create a product, create a solution, to be able to change the industry or move the industry forward.
Well, listen, I mean, I appreciate that. You mean me, but anybody's on
any speaker. Yep.
Yeah. It's a platform, right? And we want to give a platform to voices that aren't being served, voices that aren't being heard because they can't, because most of the other conferences already have a speaking circuit, and everybody that's on those speaking circuits is already churning. We are just trying to find things that are going to be disruptive. Like, what should we be doing? Not more of, but what should we be doing different?
Yeah.
Right? And the adoption rate of what we're seeing is incredible. I mean, I love how you started with the technology. I mean, we were talking about the types of data centers and the resilience, reliability, the scalability. And then we got into, we can't talk about data centers without talking about energy, right? So a big part of this conference is going to be super focused on energy.
Yep. And people. People is a big thing. It's one thing. We just had a conversation today with a group, and as great as of a solution that they had, I asked them, I go, well, that's an awesome solution. How long will it take to deliver? What's your biggest problem? People.
So is that why you spend 1/3 of the conference focused on human performance?
Absolutely. Well, that and people, this is the conference for that. I think it allows for people to be able to absorb that information and to relate. I think people want to hear more of that. They want to know how they become better human beings, how they become better professionals.
Yeah, and I think it's awesome. We have the advantage of having a guy like Mike on our team. But if you guys don't know who Mike Sorelli is, I'd encourage you to Google his name. But he was the founder of a company called the Talent War Group, which he also titled a book. And so he did a Joe Rogan podcast with it if you want to hear a little bit about it. But he also wrote An Everyday Warrior, and that's what led to his podcast and stuff. But he's ranked number 9 in the world right now for leadership gurus. So we put him on planes and sent him all over the country to go be an inspirational speaker. And we're fortunate to be able to drag him to DCAC to do the same for us, right? So he's a pretty inspirational guy walking around with a sledgehammer in his hand all the time.
Oh, yeah. I tell people you spend 5 minutes with Mike and you're inspired naturally.
Yeah.
Mike's full of inspirational quotes. And just
very infectious.
Yeah, he is.
And he's doing amazing things. I mean, what Mike's done since being here is we have to lead ourselves before we can lead others. And Mike is really good at helping codify strategy to lead you so you can lead others. And getting, this industry doesn't lack intelligence and genius. We have a lot of really smart people. We don't have a lot of strong leaders. And that's just because people haven't trained them on how to be leaders, right? So instituting leadership training to our entire staff was the first priority. And then getting down into the weeds on getting subject matter experts. Like, you have a CDCP?
Yep.
EPI, that's our certification company that we use to partner for every employee that works for us, right? But I do think that the industry is leaning more towards certifications, verifications, and we'll do things hopefully with EPI at the conference because, I mean, it's the oldest standing, it is the longest standing global accreditation firm for data centers in the world. I think it's been around since like 1983. And I mean, I think that's all that Amazon and Microsoft standardized is EPI, right? So we as a business standardize on EPI certifications, and we're going to introduce more of that through DCACs.
100%. I think that's the part where I look forward to the next couple of years to see what DCAC is going to become as we grow and as the experience becomes every year. Again, it's all about evolving and always being the forerunner of a lot of the creativity part of creating an awesome experience for attendees along with the talks. But I think, as we grow, we're definitely going to be incorporating more of those items. It's how we're going to incorporate them. I think that's going to make us different, but we definitely want to be able to create a platform for whether it's a leadership training rather than a certification, or it's a certification, half-day leadership training. DCAC will continue to evolve and adding in things like that.
That's awesome. What are some of the other misconceptions? Are there any that you want to, we aren't a pay to play, like you don't pay to get on stage. No one has, we don't, in fact, we arrange for them to come in. We don't have anybody pay for anything, right? So my thing is, what other misconceptions do you think you may want to put out that someone may have a misunderstanding?
About the fact that I think people think we're event planners. We don't, I like to say we're building the plane in midair as we go. It's still, we're figuring it out. We're just like anybody else. I mean, I think a lot of these other groups have professionals and this is what they've been doing all their life. And it's like, hey, we've done pretty well for what we have, the team we have. But no, I think there's a lot of different misconceptions. I mean, I've heard a comment, as much as it hurts me to say it, that we don't put women on stage. I go, that's not true. We've had plenty of women on stage in the years past. We actually try to reach out to more and more women every year. It's not about, your race, your color, anything like that. But it's all about the right person on stage, the right person that's going to deliver the message and inspire the audience.
Yeah, we're not trying to give people PhDs. We're just trying to inspire them to go out and figure out how to become better versions of themselves professionally. And I think the human performance side gives them a good place to start from, because it all starts with us. We were before we were professionals in the data center space, we were just regular humans, right? And we have to be good humans to be good contributors to this space, I think, as well. I think, your story and the reason why I wanted to have this podcast, I don't want you to spill the beans on all the cool shit you're doing for DC.
Oh, we could definitely do it.
No, don't. I mean, listen, people know, I think people already know it's not going to be the same every year. It's not going to be the same as every other conference. I do take a little joy in watching the industry has changed because of you. And I say that not because of me, because of you. I may have started something because I was a misfit toy and it was a David versus Goliath for me. If you want to know the truth, I started DCAC because DCD wouldn't let me attend one of their conferences once because of my title. So I went and I rented a ballroom next to them and I hosted a party and I hijacked it. and then I just started hijacking every conference I went to until finally I was like, these conferences are worthless. I'm getting everything I need in the networking side and building relationships outside of the conference.
Yeah.
They're really convenient. These conferences are great for me because they put everyone I want to talk to in the same city at the same time.
Yeah.
Right. But otherwise, I'm not getting on that stage and getting inspired. I'll walk away from a conference like that with a couple business cards and a few hangovers, but I won't leave a better person. But at DCAC, I do. Right. And it's not because of me. It's not, I may have started that, but I gave you the reins 5 years ago and said, just don't mess this up. Right.
And no pressure, man. But no, I do remember tying back to what you were saying right now. It's funny because the first few years when you hired me, I think I tried to attend a couple of conferences, and the same thing. I wasn't working for a certain company. I didn't have a certain title. All I wanted to do was learn. I'm a curious person. I like to ask 1,000 questions. I didn't even know about networking then. I didn't realize, hey, I'm going to go talk to this person to be able to develop this type of network. It wasn't my focus. It was just, I just want to go learn more about data centers. And I got denied, or I was like, hey, well, sorry, but we can offer you a 20% to 10% discount. It's like, shit, I can't even afford that. Yeah.
You also probably host, which people don't know or may not know, the most economically efficient conference in the industry. It's one of the cheapest conferences you could attend, and it has the biggest bang when you attend it.
Yeah.
Because you do everything to keep everybody there. You don't have a lot of people that like me that are coming and hijacking DCAC and then taking the crowd away. That's what we used to do until we started our own, right? But I want to share the story of DCAC and you, because DCAC has changed a lot of lives. I think it changed yours the very first year. Now you're not only a data center expert, you know the language, the lexicon, you know what it takes to build these things. You've been in the foxhole with us in the fields building these things, and you never took your eye off the ball on what was happening in the industry. You gravitated back to just guiding this thing that took on a life of its own. DCAC took on a life of its own. It far exceeded anything I wanted. I was trying to sell it, if you remember, because I'm not an event planner. I'm not a conference dude. I build leaders, I build data centers, right? But you found that platform still had a lot to offer the industry, and we gave you the keys to it. And I've watched you transform your life from DCAC, so I've had a front row seat, but I've watched you transform others' lives that have attended DCAC. There's people that built their entire careers based on the relationships that they made at DCAC. And now I'm watching you change the industry, because now you can't go to another data center conference without them doing something that's more in line with the changes that you've made.
Yeah.
And that's a testament to what you have done. So I wanted people to know that, and I wanted to do this conference or this podcast, because we've never done a podcast together, you and I.
No.
and you're not that guy. You don't like being out in front. You like delivering the dream, so to speak.
I say it's like a NASCAR. You have the outside of the car, and then you have the engine.
Yeah.
I'll be the engine.
Yeah. So listen, you are more than an engine. You're a disruptor.
Yeah.
You've changed the conference space for data centers. There's not another conference that doesn't have to be paying attention to the things that you're doing right now. And if they're not paying attention, then guess what? There were still people that are rearranging furniture for the last 2.5 hours when the Titanic went down, because those people that aren't paying attention, it's because they don't have your purpose. They didn't do this to make a difference. They're only doing this to make money. Most of these other conferences are only designed. They're expensive as hell, and they're really just designed for the cost model that's behind it. For us, you make yours work, and you make it give back to the people. So
it's all about the people, right? I think, last year, one of the funniest things I was being able to explain to the team on how much we care about people. Last year, I remember walking around. Every year, as you know, we kind of leave the bar tab running, and I remember walking around, and it was probably, I think it was the second day of the conference. It's probably 1:00, and they're like, "Hey, you hit your minimum." And
minimum?
Yeah, I hit the minimum, and I'm like, all right, great. Let it run. We'll figure it out as we go. People were having a good time. We didn't want to stop everybody from having a good time. Just enjoying themselves. I remember getting the bill after DCAC 2 weeks after, and thinking about, how am I going to explain this to the team?
$20,000 over on bar?
$100,000 over. $100,000.
Yeah, that's some explaining.
For the record, yeah. $100,000. I had to justify that. And for all you listeners, I hope you guys are attending again. But no, that was something that it was giving back to the people. It was more about, it was
their conference.
It was their conference.
And the moment.
They were all networking, right? It was, am I going to take away from them at that moment, right? It's not about the money. It's staying true to our mission. Same thing when we go justify, okay, hey, are we going to do this? We're going to do this to do this. We're going to buy a hat arbitrarily, right? Do I buy the cheap one or do I buy the expensive one? Well, hey man, this is about the people. Let's give them the best of the best. Let's give them an experience that they can remember. But again, it's not about the cost part of it. It's more about is this best for the people?
I love it, man. Is there, again, your story inspires me. I hope it inspires those that are listening. 10 years ago, this kid came up and helped me at a conference, didn't know anything about the data center industry. And today, fast forward, he's been a part of building shitloads of data centers with us. But along the way, he took over the shift for DCAC. And now you run one of the most disruptive conferences in the United States. So I'm proud of you. I've had a front row seat to watching you grow. It's been incredible. What's one last thing you want to leave any of the listeners before we hang out?
Man, I would say, I hope that they attend DCAC for the right reasons. I hope that when they come, if they do see someone walking around that's by themselves, that they reach out to them. Chances are that person just wants to talk to somebody, probably just like me, just a little shy.
Yeah.
But I guarantee, you pull them in and introduce them to one or two people.
It's all it takes.
It's probably going to change their life, right? I would say that's the intention. Come in with just helping make an impact in another person's life.
Dude, that's awesome. Well, listen, man, it's a pleasure to have the opportunity to sit down and talk to the president of DCAC. I know that it hasn't been easy because I put unrealistic expectations on you, but you crush it. Proud of you. And thanks for what you're doing for the conference.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.